everyone, and welcome to another episode of Theater Makers Interviews. This week, my guest is Andy Leahy. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine, thank you.
Good. We'll start at the beginning. What was your first theatrical experience?
When I was in college, I did a sort of a church-related, it was a big youth gathering, and I was in a sort of a production. It was just a big review kind of thing. And then when I was in grad school, I did a Harold Pinter play, a one act.
Okay.
And then I waited 10 years and then my first real venture into theater, into community theater was in Springfield, at the Muni at Springfield, big outdoor theater in Illinois.
Yeah.
And I was in Student Prince, and then I got hooked.
Okay.
And I've been doing theater pretty much ever since.
What was it that made you fall in love with theater and with performing?
I just enjoyed it. It certainly I was a fairly shy person. I still am basically, but be able to put a character on and make people laugh, that got to me. I just enjoy doing that. And yeah.
So some questions for you as a director. What was your very first directing job?
Bye Bye Birdie at Drama Group.
Okay.
In the little theater. And I had been doing theater for 20 years and watched a lot of directors and kept thinking, well, I can do what they're doing. So I put in and got to do it. And it was a really fun show. I had a great young cast and we had a good time doing it. So that encouraged me.
And what was it that scared you the most about going in as a director that first time?
I don't know that I was smart enough to be scared. I just sort of jumped in thinking, oh, I can do this. And like I say, I had a great young cast who were willing to try things. And we were having so much fun that I never really was worried about too much that I remember. It was later on that I was doing shows that, especially as I watched some professional directors, I went to a class once with a director from Court Theater and realized how little I knew about directing, that I worried about it. And then I think my biggest worry for a show after that was West Side Story when I did that.
Right.
Because it was such a well-known show, such a powerful show. And I just knew I had to make it work. And so yeah.
Did you get any advice before you went in that first time?
I worked with a woman, Mary Louise Reed. I was her AD for a couple of shows, and she was really good. She knew what she was doing. I can say this about her because she isn't at Drama Group anymore. I don't think she'll hear this, but I think she'd appreciate it anyway. She was a tough old bird. She didn't take grief from anybody, and some people found it hard to work with her, but I enjoyed it, and we had a really good rapport. And so I learned a lot from her.
Okay. And is there a show that you, sorry, I skipped a question. What did you learn the most from your first time as a director?
Oh man. I don't know. I guess I learned about how to deal with sets more than I thought. I was concentrating on actors and getting what I wanted out of them and for the sake of the show. And I realized that I hadn't, because I designed the set, I hadn't paid enough attention to the set. And things weren't working as well as I thought. And I realized I had to do a lot more preparation for that kind of thing.
Is there anything that you learned that you still, if this still qualifies as the same thing, that you still hold on to when a new show comes on for you to direct?
Ask me that again. I'm not sure I understand what you're wanting to know.
It might be the same answer as what I just asked, but is there anything that you had learned from that first show that you still hold on to from, the last show you directed that you kind of go, that's always something I remember from the first time, I keep thinking about it?
Yeah, it's dealing with actors.
Okay.
It really is about a working relationship. I got the most out of actors when it was a collaboration, when I wasn't just saying, you got to do this and this is the way I want it. It was, I would talk to them and we'd
Yeah.
talk about how things went. And that worked best for me. And I keep that very much in front when I'm directing now.
Is there a show that you have directed that you would love the chance to revisit and maybe do over in a different way?
Well, I had a chance to direct Romeo and Juliet at a church a couple of years ago, and I had some really fine actors. I had some actors who were trying to work professionally, and it was a really good experience. But it was because of the setting; it was so limited. We weren't in the theater. We didn't have theater lighting. The music was a problem. So all the pieces weren't fitting together like I wish they could have. And I love Romeo and Juliet so much. I would love to be able to do that again in a theater setting with the proper facilities.
Okay. What has been the hardest decision that you have had to make as a director for the good of everyone involved?
Well, back to West Side Story, I had a set design. I got to use most of what I wanted, but not all of it. I had some other ideas that would have been just perfect for that show. And my builder said, you can't do it. It won't work. It's too dangerous.
Okay.
And I kept pushing. And finally I realized, no, he's right. I can't make actors do that. There was coming in from the ceiling and stuff. So it was about the safety of actors. That's really the most serious thing I've had to deal with, I think.
Okay.
In terms of compromising.
Now, when you are sitting at the director's table during auditions, what are you looking for?
Boy, that's hard because it's so different. With community theater, we're not getting 20 people who would fit the role, and I just have to find the right one.
Right.
I'm lucky sometimes to get a person who could handle it at all, but they're not perfect. And so I'm looking, I guess, for people who are willing to work with me. Usually if I see somebody that I'm not sure they could do the role, but I want to try them, I'll ask them to read it a different way, read the lines a different way. Can you do this for me? And see how they respond to me. They don't have to do it perfect, but if I hear them trying, if I hear them saying, okay, I can try that, then that's what I work with. Other than that, it really is about just trying to find the character, the actor who is going to make that character come alive best.
Right. What is your favorite show that you've directed so far?
West Side Story, without a doubt. I had a beautiful young cast. I had talent who dug into their roles. I designed the set in a way that got the audience involved, and I had a lighting expert who's now gone on to work in New York. He was a student at the time, and everything went together just beautifully to make that a great experience for me.
Okay. So some questions for you as an actor. What has been your favorite role that you've played so far?
The man in the chair in Drowsy Chaperone. I've done a lot of roles. I've done a lot of variety of roles, but that one just got right at what I just felt like I was there. It flowed very well. I enjoyed it very much too. It's a fun show.
Is there a role that has gotten away?
That I wanted to do that I can't do?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a ton of them because, oh, I'm sorry, ignore that phone. Yeah, I love Company, and I would have loved to be in that.
Okay.
And I guess even Shakespeare shows. Years ago, I would have thought Romeo would have been a great cast. I would have been terrible as Romeo, but you have these visions when you're young, and I think And now as I get older, I realize there are very few roles that are available now that I could really get into. And so I'm missing out on even some of the middle-aged older roles now, just because I'm not going to get to do them.
Is there a dream role that you think you still have the chance to play that you'd like to?
Oh, I don't know. I don't like to think about it much anymore. I'm not sure I could do any of the big roles. Certainly King Lear would be a great character for an older actor, but that's a huge part.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm up to that kind of thing.
So of this is going to be a several part question because I'm going to ask it both as an actor and a director. So first I'll go with the actor. What role have you found to be the most difficult that you've played?
Shoot, I don't know. They've all been difficult in their own ways. I did a character in Philadelphia Story a couple of years ago that I felt I was too old for, and so that was mostly uncomfortable for me because I was playing against a very young actress.
Okay.
And she was supposed to be the love interest, and it wasn't going to go anywhere. It's a comedy, and so there wasn't anything serious about it that would make the audience go, "Ooh, I wish he hadn't been in that role."
Yeah.
But it made me feel uncomfortable, and so that was a tough one. Other than that, a couple of years ago I played. Oh shoot. Can you edit this? Because now I'm gonna forget. I shouldn't have brought that one up. I can't. I always blank on this show because it really was. It was a tough one for me to get into. Helen Keller.
The Miracle Worker.
Miracle Worker. I was the father in the Miracle Worker. And yeah, that was a tough one to get into just because I was working against an actress who was very good, and I didn't feel I was meeting up to her ability to work. I didn't feel like we were connecting, and it was my fault.
As Helen?
No, as my wife, the mother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't have to be on stage much with Helen herself. I had a few things, but it was mostly my relationship with the mother, the wife.
Okay. What role did you find the most fun?
Peter Pan. I was Captain Hook in Peter Pan, and I just had a great time I had a fun cast, and the woman who played Peter Pan was a great, Tina Zagone did a great job with it, and we got to play against each other very well.
What role did you find the most rewarding?
Again, the man in the chair from Drowsy Chaperone,
because
the audience responded. One of my best compliments was from a friend who does theater. She says, "I was really glad that the director lets you just sort of chat with the audience, that And I said, "No, that was all scripted. I was chatting because it was what was written in the script, and that made me feel good because that's exactly what I was supposed to be doing, was making the audience feel like they were in my living room and I was chatting with them."
It's really a role that's kind of when they say, "Oh, this show is a love letter to something," that role is really a love letter to musical theater actors.
Yes,
it really is. Because we all have those weird, obscure shows that we love that people go, "I've never heard of that before."
Exactly.
So on the flip side, as director, what show did you find the most difficult to get together?
I did a production quite a few years ago now of The Fantastics, and I love that show, and I had some really good ideas I thought about how to do it, and I had 5 actors who had completely different ideas and were very hard to work with. They didn't want to listen, and I just let them go. And as a result, the show was very disjointed because they were all going in their own directions, and it just didn't work. And I had 2 young people who were also very young and thought they already knew everything they needed to know.
Mm.
And so it was just it was a mess. The audience didn't like the show. There were moments in it that were okay, but that was my biggest disappointment and the biggest struggle I had to deal with.
Which show was the most fun to put together?
I've had so many fun ones. A Little Shop of Horrors comes to mind. I think probably had most fun with that because of the actors again that I had who were having such a good time, and we just pulled that off. And then you'll remember a show called Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum.
Yeah.
That was another one that just everybody was having such a good time working, and they had to work very hard in that show, as you know.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of running around and a lot of the set slamming doors and all that. But everybody just enjoyed it, I thought. From my end, I was having a great time.
I'd have to say I was too. As daunting of a task as it was to jump into a role like that is, I mean, really maybe cumulatively is off stage for 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
of a 2-hour show, you're off stage for a very small amount of time. It's a challenging, really, almost, other than maybe his name just went out of my head, other than maybe Erroneous, every role in there has got so much craziness and nonstop, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's that was a lot of fun to be a part of. What show did you find the most rewarding to put together?
Again, West Side Story.
Okay.
That just because of the story itself and how powerful that is. The music is so good, and I had a cast that was digging down to get some really heavy stuff for young people who hadn't experienced a lot. My lead, Maria, was only 15 at the time, but boy, she managed to find some stuff I wouldn't expect a girl that young to have found. So yeah, that everything about that show made me feel very proud.
So what, back to you as an actor, what role taught you the most as a person? Have you had a role that you feel kind of changed you, or maybe the way you thought about something, that sort of thing?
I've not done too many serious roles, so yeah, I can't say that. That's a tough question.
Okay.
It's an interesting question, but I can't say that any role that I've gone into that I didn't understand, that all of a sudden I came out saying, oh, I never thought of this before. It's not been that emotional for me. Shows I've been in, like I was in Frost Nixon, and there certainly were some powerful things in that, and I was a reporter in that one. But it wasn't anything that changed me. I already knew going into it where that reporter should be, and so I'm sorry. That one
I was gonna revise the question and ask if there was a show in general that kind of, by the end of it, made you feel different in a way about something, if that makes sense.
I've certainly seen shows that have done that. I really can't think of any show that I've done, because most of the shows I've done have been pretty light.
Okay.
West Side Story is about the heaviest. Certainly there were things that were done in that show that moved me very deeply. I had actors who were doing some really good work that, but I already knew going into it. It wasn't that anything changed about me about it. I was really glad that those emotions were able to be produced to make that show so important.
Right. What has been your greatest accomplishment in theater so far?
I don't know. I'm certainly I'm very glad to be, glad's the wrong word. I'm very honored, I guess, to be president right now of the Drama Room at a time when everything is falling apart and theater is struggling. And I'm really, because I have such strong feelings for Drama Group, and I'm glad that I can work to keep it together, that I can be a part of that whole thing. So I think that at this moment would be what I'm proudest of, and I'm just starting. By the end of the year, I may be a mess. We'll see. But for right now, I'm very glad that I can do that.
So a lot of the roles that you have played could be categorized as character roles, whether they have been in plays or musicals. Is there a specific way you approach those character roles?
For the comedies, I've always tried to find a character in a movie that I've known, or a play maybe, but mostly movies, because then I can look at them. I know I've done a couple of British farces, and there are a couple of the old Ginger Rogers, Fred Astaire movies that had those British character actors who were great comics, and I would play using them.
Yeah. What, in your opinion, are your favorite attributes of a good director?
Someone who knows how to direct and not just move furniture, move actors. I've worked with some very good directors who were able to talk to me about what I'm doing and where the character is going, and I always feel like actors need to have that those eyes looking at them from a distance saying, I know where you think you're going with that, but it's not working with the show, or right. You're not connecting to the other actors, and I need directors who do that with me. I think it was one of the good things about the Man in the Chair, Drowsy Chaperone. Mary Ellen Falk is a very good director because she does say that. We talk about it. She says, that's not working, try this. And that helped me a great deal in that role. Stacy Jankosik is another one that I've appreciated working with over the years. Even in the small roles, she still is able to work with the actors. I've had friends who are directors that I like very much who just sort of let you go and do whatever you want to do. And I always feel uncomfortable about that because I'm not sure if I'm doing it right or not. I need feedback.
So this is a three-part question. What are some of your biggest pet peeves about directors as an actor?
That they don't work with you, that they simply sit up there and say, no, I want you to move 3 steps this way, or stay where you are. I need a director who talks to me about character. Okay. That's really my biggest pet peeve. And some directors don't like to involve themselves that much. They figure they've got a talented actor, let them do what they want to do. I think a director needs to be able to know all the actors well enough to be able to say, okay, this actor I know is going to know what he's doing. I picked him because he knows what he's doing. I'll let him do it, and if he has questions, he'll ask me. This one over here, she needs somebody to talk to about it. Right. I think directors should be able to do that, or best, and it annoys me when they don't do that at all.
What are your biggest pet peeves about actors as a director?
Actors who don't want to try what you suggest. If they just sit there and say, no, I don't want to do that. Okay, fine. I think I know what I'm doing. I can see that it's not working. If you try it, at least maybe you'd find that it will work. Yeah. And Fortunately, I haven't had too many actors like that. I've had a few. The actors in the Fantastics that I talked about earlier, I had 4 of them who were like that. That just, nope, I'm not going to do it that way.
Yeah.
And as a result, it doesn't work.
And the last part, what is your biggest pet peeve about actors as an actor? Your fellow actors on stage with you.
Yeah, sure. Boy, I don't know. I've had such good experience working with other actors for the most part. And it's about being able to communicate with each other, be able to relate to each other on stage. And you know, I guess I have had occasionally where actors are just in their own little bubble and they don't really think about anybody else but themselves.
Yeah.
It's been very rare. Mostly the actors I've worked with, and I've been in theater for 30 years, usually they're wanting to work with the other people on stage. So other than that, I don't know. I don't like divas, but you know, it's theater, so you're going to get divas every once in a while.
Yeah, that's definitely true. If a show was created about you, who would play the lead?
Oh no. I haven't a clue.
Who would you like to see play you?
Yeah, right. That's what I'm trying to think of. I'm old, so I think about Paul Newman.
Okay.
Just because he was so good at doing characters. I enjoyed him.
I have 2 that came to my mind when thinking about this question.
Oh yeah?
One is David Hyde Pierce.
Ah.
And the other one that I think would work really well, because I've seen him both be very out there, but then play some very small, subtle roles that match the personality that I know of you, and that would be Kevin Kline.
Oh really?
Oh yeah.
He would not have come to mind. I like Kevin Kline, yeah. I like David Hyde Pierce too. Either one of them would be just fine with me.
Have you ever seen Ricky and the Flash?
No.
It was a movie he did not too many years ago with Meryl Streep. And they play a divorced couple, and she's like a rock and roller, and she kind of walked away from her family. He remarried Audra McDonald and raised the kids, and she's not really been a part of their lives. And she comes back when the daughter, played by Meryl Streep's actual daughter, husband leaves her. And she goes into this tailspin, and it's a very subtle but very well done way that he plays this character, who's not quite, he's not as crazy as like Fish Calls Wanda, how he did that, but it's a great performance. It's not a well-known movie, but a very, very good performance out of everybody, really. I would highly recommend watching it. What has been your approach to learning lines?
Oh, it's always a struggle. It's been a struggle as long as I've done theater, and it's just over and over and over again. I tape them sometimes to listen to them. I read them over and over. I stand on the train reading them over and over. It's just a matter of going over and over and over and over, and then I'll go on stage and forget them anyway. So and as I get older, it's been getting tougher, and so I have a feeling my days of learning lines might be coming near to an end, especially since I haven't been practicing it in a while.
Yeah. Do you have any pre-performance rituals as either an actor or a director?
I used to go over lines right before I went on stage, and then I had an actor friend tell me, you forget lines because when you say the lines off stage, your brain says you've already said them when you get on stage, and that's why you forget. So I stopped doing that. Other than that, I go over the first line that I have to say, because I know once I get started, it's fine. And then I just pace a lot. I do move around a lot because I just feel like I've got to especially with some of the comedy roles I've done, I have to have that energy, and so I just have to keep moving and get the tension going.
Okay. If you had a magic wand to end everything with the pandemic and we could go back to normal theater, what show would you like to start rehearsals on?
Oh, I have wanted to do a show called 6 Degrees of Separation. I keep putting in for it and keep getting rejected for one reason or another. But I think that's such a really good theater piece. I would love to be able to do that right away. Now, I am going to be doing Into the Woods this summer in Indiana. We're hoping that's going to still happen. And then next fall, I'll be opening the drama group season with How to Succeed in Business, which is a lightheaded, fun show, but with the right cast, it could be a great show to do.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to both of those.
Okay.
Really, but.
In your opinion, what makes a good play or a good musical?
For a musical, the songs have to be integral to what's going on. I don't like songs being performed to the audience so much. I like it to be part of what's going on stage. And for a play, any good story, if it makes me laugh or cry or whatever, but it has to be, the actors have to be totally involved. Sometimes in community theater, you don't get that as much as you'd like, but you do very often. And certainly in professional theater, it works the same way. I've been to professional shows that have just not worked because the actors weren't there. But yeah, it's just, if I can get engrossed in a story because they're telling that story so well, that's what I like.
Is there a novel or a movie that you absolutely love that you wish someone would adapt into a stage show, and why?
Oh, that's not a fair question. Let me think. Wow. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have a tough time pulling something like that out. I mean, I like a lot of science fiction movies, but very few of them would work on stage.
Well, with technology changing all the time, I mean, you never know.
That's true. I've seen videos of some stage productions with stuff going on visually that was just amazing, the projections. But I don't know. Dr. Strangelove, I just happened to be talking to a friend about that. And now that you mention it, that could be a fun show. I guess, it'd be a great show for anti-war.
Yeah.
And funny and serious at the same time. And I don't think there's been a stage adaptation of it.
Not that I can think of.
Yeah.
That could be interesting. I mean, you get a good songwriter for that. That could be very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
What sort of stories inspire you as an actor or a director?
Well, in two directions. I love doing comedies just for the sake of hearing audiences laugh. So, some of the British farces are fun because they can make people laugh very easily with some silliness. Serious stories like 6 Degrees of Separation, it's so poignant. It's about racism and classism, and it grabs you in such a way that you really you're so caught up in the characters, and then you realize, oh, wait a minute, this is something serious. It makes you think about something without smacking you over the head with it necessarily. All My Sons, I saw a production of that at Court Theater.
Good show.
Yeah, and boy, when you got some actors who work on those characters,
Yeah.
by the end of that show, it's just heart-wrenching.
Mm-hmm. So you've played roles that you could categorize as the hero, so to speak. And you've played a couple of roles that could be categorized as a villain, Captain Hook, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Which do you prefer, and which is more fun to play?
Well, Captain Hook was fun as a villain. He's such a silly villain that was a lot of fun. I got a lot of laughs out of him. I was in a play called The Alabama Story, where I was a Southern senator
Hmm.
who was very racist, and I played him as a very nice guy, and the racism was just, this is the way it should be.
Yeah.
And I like that because it made me make sure I wasn't playing a stereotypical racist. I wasn't a KKK character.
Right.
I was a Southern racist from the 50s. And my best compliment from that was one of the members of the cast, his grandmother was there, a Black woman from the South who was a librarian. And she walked up to me and he introduced her, and she looked at me and says, "I don't like you very much." And then she smiled.
Yeah.
I got it. That's, so I like to be able to the serious roles where you can find the way that the character is real and he is likable in some ways until you realize, oh, wait a minute, this is not the way we should be.
Now, let me ask about that, because especially, with the climate that the society is in now, did you find it difficult playing a character that was racist, even if you did it in a more subtle way than a serious way?
Yeah, it wasn't easy because I knew that he couldn't have been a stereotype. He couldn't have been broad. He had to be very subtle. And frankly, I have a friend that I work with who's African American, and I talked to him about it and said, this is the character. This is how I got to do. Let's talk to me about that. And he gave me some very good ideas about what that meant for him which did help me keep the character real and yet not a very nice person.
Now, did you have any fear that people that didn't know Andy might think that's who you are?
It occurred to me, I the cast, in fact, we talked about that a little bit. But I guess I didn't worry about it. I didn't think anybody was going to attack me. They knew we were playing a play, and most of the people who come to the theater know who I am. I've been around too long.
Right.
So I didn't think that it would be that serious. It would have surprised me if it would have happened, I think, if someone would have reacted that way.
So over the years, has there been any big onstage flubs that you may not have laughed at the time, but you can look back now and kind of laugh about it?
So many flubs. Well, in fact, Alabama Story was one that embarrassed the hell out of me because I was in a fairly serious scene with the librarian, and I walked into her office and we're chatting, and at some point there's this silence that you realize, oh, something's wrong. And she looked at me and said, "Weren't you going to give me a paper?" And I reached in my pocket and realized the paper wasn't there.
Oh.
And I had to say, "No, but I will get it to you as soon as I can." And then that was the end of the scene. I walk off, and then it occurred to me in the very next scene, she had to talk about that paper with another character. And I was so embarrassed. Fortunately, the actress picked it up very well. I suspect the audience didn't notice that. And it was fine, but I was terribly embarrassed. But we did have lots of laughs at it afterwards. And every night she would walk up to me with a piece of paper and put it and say, "This is yours, I believe," before the show.
Yeah. Have you had any in any of the shows that you've directed?
Oh, yeah. In Little Shop of Horrors, I'm sitting, I think it was second night, and during the opening song, there's a moment where one of the actors pops up as a vagrant. He'd been sort of hiding on the side and on set from at the beginning of the show, and he pops up to do a piece of song, and he didn't pop up. I thought, where the hell is he? And after the show, I went up to him and said, "What was going on?" He says, "I fell asleep."
I had a feeling that's where that was going. Yeah, I can. I'm sure he's not the first one to do something like that.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the most important lessons that theater teaches?
How to think about ourselves, how to appreciate who we are as human beings and how we relate to one another. Theater should always be teaching us how to be human with each other, either by making us laugh at ourselves or giving us characters that make us think about how we've treated other people while we watch these people being treated badly or mistakenly or however.
Great. Is there anything within the theater world that you wish you were better at?
Directing. Acting, yeah, I can't, I probably am going to have to give that up just for memory issues. Directing, I know I can keep doing for a while. And as I've seen shows, I usher for the Saints in Chicago when there are shows. And so I've seen a lot of professional shows, and it's helped me learn how to stage shows, how to put shows on. And then when I've listened to professional directors talk about how to do shows, I realize how much there is to know that I don't really know yet, even after, I've been directing 15 years now, and I try to learn stuff, but there's so much about putting a show together that I still have to learn.
Do you desire to be known for what you do or who you are and why?
Oh, who I am is much more important. I want people to be able to trust me, to know that I'm dependable, that I'm trustworthy, that I'm someone that they could come to for help if they needed it. I'd much rather have that. I enjoy getting laughs on stage, and I certainly enjoy having a whole show come together because I've directed. But that's fleeting. It's much more important to have people who care about you because you're a decent person.
So a submitted question that someone put in specifically for you, and because you actually mentioned this earlier, do you have any specific goals that you want to meet as the drama group president during your first term here, or your first year?
At this point, I came into it in the midst of the pandemic, hopefully in the midst. I'm hoping it doesn't last too much longer. And so realizing that we have to hold this theater together for as long as it takes until we can have audiences making money again, giving us, making sure we can keep going. So, right now it's just about making sure I can keep things moving along and keeping our name in front of the public, and, asking people to continue to support us in spite of the fact we're not on stage. The other thing that came about, which has become a serious issue, is the whole racism issue. And Drama Group, I think, has had a good history of fighting racism. We've done things already because we're concerned about it. And it was clear from some of the comments that we've heard over the past few months that there are still things we need to keep working on. And so one of the things we put together was this consultant teams. We hired a team to help us figure out what we can do, where we can move to make sure that the community around us, which certainly is very diverse, it's not a white community like it was 50 years ago. So I want to make sure that the drama group continues to be in the forefront of doing shows that are for the community, that the community is part of, and that reflect what's going on in the community as well as the rest of the world. So right now, those are the two goals I have. I think that I can't think much beyond that.
Okay, and that is one thing I will say, and some of that stuff came up before you had officially taken over and Tony was still the president, that I definitely appreciated that, however it came about, that the board and people said, yes, there have been mistakes. Yes, there have been issues. We are going to admit to it, but we are going to try to fix them going forward. Because there's been a lot of people that have said, you know, we're going to take a stand against it, but aren't necessarily, you know, acknowledging the past, sort of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciated that very, very much.
And I'm glad you clarified that it's not something that I certainly introduced. This was something that I received from Tony Labriola, all his hard work, and the board. Yes, thank you.
And it's a good thing, because it in the middle of it changing from one president to another and some board members, you know, a lot has changed. It could have easily been left to the wayside or put on the back burner, especially in a time now where there's no theater going on. But that it's, you know, it's not, it's still there and it's being acknowledged and addressed. So that's always a good thing.
Yes.
We will finish with a quick questionnaire, slightly modified from the Inside the Actor Studio, created by Bernard Pivot. What is your favorite musical?
There's so many different ways to do this. Fantastics I love just because of the story. Into the Woods because it's just so creative with the fairy tales and some of the great music. Man, I don't know, anything by Stephen Sondheim pretty much. And the plays that I've seen, 6 Degrees of Separation, as I mentioned, All My Sons. There's nothing that stands above all the others, because as soon as I think of one, then I think of another one that does that I enjoy for a different reason or appreciate for a different reason.
Do you have a least favorite musical?
Yeah, people are going to hate this, but for all the famous big time musicals, Sound of Music, I think, is it just never got to me. I thought it was sort of sappy and there were some fun songs, and certainly the movie was glorious and all that. But yeah, I would never direct Sound of Music. I'm not interested in being in Sound of Music. and I hope everyone keeps enjoying it, because
now you kind of answered this when I asked about a favorite musical. Do you have a favorite play?
Well, yeah, again, there's so many that I've seen. I can't think of one that stands out other than like I said, 6 Degrees, just because of the story. Yeah, I did see a play called, I mean, this is a one-man play. It's not one that's known very well except by Chicago people, called an Odyssey. It was done by Court Theater, by one actor. It was a one-actor show that was basically based on the Odyssey, with him telling the story, and done as an anti-war piece. And it was so powerfully done by this actor, and I forgot his name. I know it, but I can't pull it out right now. Kane, last name is Kane. But so that was because of the production itself. Court Theater does great productions. The staging, and this one actor who just held the audience's attention for an hour and 40 minutes nonstop.
Yeah. Do you have a least favorite play?
No, there's nothing that, I mean, I've seen some bad plays. Bat Boy, I think, is the name of what I saw. Oh, that's a musical. What, I don't know. I can't.
Maybe those were not great productions, but the plays were fine.
That's often happened. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen. There was one play I saw at Drama Group. They did. What was the name of that? anyway, I saw it and it laughed. It was such a funny play, and they did such a beautiful job. And then Drury Lane was going to do it, so I bought a ticket, and it wasn't funny, and I left at intermission. It was so bad, and I thought, well, there you are, great play that actors didn't work at or director. So anyway, yeah, I can't say one play I think of as the worst. No.
Okay. Do you have a favorite word?
I don't know. This is corny. Love certainly came to mind. But yeah, I'm not going to be very creative about that, I'm afraid.
That's right. Do you have a least favorite word?
Yeah, it's a word that I can't say publicly that I've heard very much too often, and I don't like to hear it anymore. I don't like to say it. And people do say it a lot, but yeah.
I'm assuming
it begins with F.
Okay. See, that would have been my answer to favorite word.
Like I said, everybody uses it.
What sound or noise do you love?
Oh, I think probably a puppy noises. Just, I don't have a dog anymore, but yeah, I remember puppy, yeah, that just warms me.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Oh, geez. I guess ambulance, the sirens going off. That came to mind right away.
Okay. What profession, other than your own, will include day job, being an actor, being a director, what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
You mean besides being a director? Because if I could be a director full time, I would love that.
I'm going to include any job that you've done, director and actor, all as your profession. Is there something that you've never done that you'd be interested in attempting?
I've always been interested in being a visual artist, drawing and that. I've never gotten into it. I started out that way years ago, and yeah, that would have been interesting. That and being a novelist, but I don't have the talent for that. So,
is there a profession you would not like to do?
Yeah, dentist. I could never be a dentist. I could never be, probably not any kind of doctor. It's too much to do with pain and ickiness.
Yeah. If an afterlife exists, what would you like to hear when you arrive?
Oh, it'd be nice to have God or the holy angels saying, "Nice to have you here. Let's show you what you're going to be doing."
Okay. Well, I thank you for joining me for this episode for the week. I hope that everyone that has watched enjoyed it and has gotten some good insight from Andy on his life as a director and as an actor. And I hope you had some fun, maybe going down memory lane a little bit.
Yes, I did. Thank you very much. It was much less stressful than I thought it might be.
Well, thanks everybody again, and everybody stay safe out there.
Thank you, Tyler. Take care.